what I want to do is I want you all to help me welcome to the stage someone that I'm super proud and privileged to introduce you to. He's someone you might have heard his story, you might not have, but I can tell you right now that I know that you're going to gain a huge level of awareness and distinction from meeting him. And I want to introduce you to our friend, Mr. David Goggins. We're an interesting species as a human being. All of us know that we're designed for more, designed for greatness. And let me tell you why. Is because when we're in the presence of greatness, we see a piece of ourselves in that, in them. When we see someone that's doing something that's extraordinary, we identify ourselves in that. That's why it makes the back of our hair on the neck stand up, right? And when we witness that, it has nothing to do with talent, and it has nothing to do with skill. What resonates the most with us is when we see someone with heart that's overcoming to become. They're doing what isn't as if it were. How many of you see that when you see his story? Yes or no? But for those that don't know your story, because I saw probably, I'd say 30, 40% of the audience, they don't know your story. I don't do it justice. I'm not going to attempt to do it. But kind of share with us, David Goggins. Who are you? Where did your story begin?
Well, I won't get too deep. I'll give you the quick, cliff note highlights. I was born with a very abusive father, beat the hell out of me every day, was an alcoholic. I ended up suffering with toxic stress. The last incident that happened in our family was my dad came home one night from work real drunk, and when he got drunk, he got real violent. He had me go in the room, take all my clothes off. This was very typical. It's a typical day for our family. And, you didn't have to do anything like major for him to beat your ass. He just get mad and just beat you up. So I was about 8 years old, and my dad had me go in the bedroom. He was very tactical, mind tactics. Had me lay on the bed, 90-degree angle, so my butt was hanging off. Door shut, so my back was facing the door. And I waited there for 45 minutes. He walked up and was beating me all over the place. My mom saw it. She walked in, and it was one of the worst beatings I ever got. She said something to him, set him off. He smacked her in the face, knocked her out, grabbed her by her hair, dragged her down the stairs by her hair. We ended up leaving Buffalo, New York, and we went to a small town in Brazil, Indiana. So at this time, my mom's, she did this for 17 years. I did it for 8. And her soul was taken by him. I was all messed up, had a horrible foundation, and we moved to a place called Brazil, Indiana. Brazil, Indiana was about 15 minutes from Center Point. Center Point was the hub of the KKK at the time. So it was about 5 black families. We were one of them. So coming from this foundation from Buffalo, New York, and moving to this area, it was horrible for me. But when you're young, being a young black kid with a bunch of whites wasn't that bad. And like I said, about 5 black families. But I didn't realize I had a severe learning disability. Because like when I was growing up, I never went to school. My dad had us work in the skating rink, the family business. He didn't believe in going to school. So fast forward, my third grade year comes, and I'm copying the whole time. I'm cheating on every test because they want to put me in a special school. We all know what special means. You're about to be, have a nice title on you for the rest of your life. So when I heard this, I started this cheating. So when I got to my junior year in high school, I had a 3rd grade reading level. My mom never saw a report card. We lived in a $7 a month place. We lived in a government subsidized apartment, food stamps, all that good stuff. And when I was about 14 years old, my mom met a guy. So we moved from Brazil, Indiana to Indianapolis, Indiana. He got murdered. When he got murdered, we moved back to Indianapolis, Indiana, Brazil, Indiana. By this time, the kids were grown. And when you're young, they don't know black and white. You're just David Goggins. When you get in high school, they start realizing you look a little different. So I got my car. My first car I ever got was a brown Citation. I pull up to school, leave it there all day, come out of school and spray paint on it. Was, "Nigger, we're going to kill you." So this went on from my sophomore year to my senior year. But my junior year, I was like, I got to get the hell out of Brazil, Indiana. And I was like, I want to go in the Air Force. I had to get out of here. Let me join the military. So I went to the military, and the guy was like, hey, you got to take an ASVAB test. Having a third grade reading level, I didn't know you had to take a test to get in the military. So the ASVAB test, I sit down trying to take it, and I got a 20 the first time. So I went back home and got my best friend Johnny so I can copy off of him. Johnny came in, took the test. He had test A, I had test B. So I couldn't cheat. So long story short, you get 3 chances to take this ASVAB test. On the third chance, I had 6 months to pretty much study for this test. That's when my whole life got revealed to my mom. She was always gone. She didn't know I was flunking out of school. She didn't know I wasn't going to school because I was getting bullied, getting called nigger, all this other stuff. So I walk in to my mom, what's going on. We didn't have much money, so she got me a tutor for 1 hour a week that cost $15. So I had 6 months, 4 hours a month to study. And what the tutor realized was I can't retain anything from all the toxic stress. I don't know if it's a learning disability or what. I just can't retain stuff. My mind was just messed up from my life. So how I learned was I had to get spiral notebooks. And literally, if I had a manual, I had to write down every single word of the manual. So what may take you an hour to learn would take me 6 or 7 days to learn, and just literally write it down. So I didn't really retain it. I just memorized it. So I can go in my mind right now. Remember, page 71, look at the question and go, okay, that's what I saw. That's how I remember it, and put it down. So I ended up passing the test. I passed the test, go back, get in the Air Force, and I wanted to be an Air Force pararescueman. It's like a special operations guy. And I didn't know that blacks in water, not so much. I didn't know this, though. So in special ops, what gets everybody is the water, and being that there's only 1% of all special operations that are black, had no idea at 19 years old this was the case, they give you this warning order. So now I passed this ASVAB test. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm going through this warning order, and it's push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, all this stuff. And so I'm doing all this, but the last page has swimming. Okay, easy day. I went to Barnes & Noble, wherever I went. I got a how-to book on swimming. First page was easy, float, right? So my black ass gets in the water, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. I didn't know any of this shit, all right? So I get in the water, and everything was literally, I taught myself everything in my whole life. So I get in the water, and I lay back, I'm looking up, and I lawn dart to the bottom of the pool. I'm on the bottom of the pool, literally walking like this, looking up, thinking, what the hell? So I can't even swim, so I push off, I grab the gunnel, the lifeguard sees me, comes over and says, hey, I've taught thousands of people how to swim. I said, okay, great, man. He goes, okay, look, just relax. You just need to relax. Swimming is all about relaxing. Okay, relax, lets me go. Lawn dart down the pool. I come up, he says, man, you're fucked. I said, why, man? He goes, well, you're negative buoyant. I know what that was. I do now, obviously. Negative buoyancy is, pretty much you sink in the daggone water. You can't float. So most of you white people out here can float. 70% of African Americans have heavier bone density, therefore, it's not too fun. It's like throwing a cat in the fucking water. So basically, I take the same mentality that I had to become this intelligent guy you all see today. And I applied that, yeah. Make me feel better. That's it. I'm lying, I'm dumb as shit. So, anyway, I took that same mentality and I applied it to, swimming. After several months, I can swim. So now I go into pararescue training. Get there the first day, second day, third day, I'm kicking butt. I'm doing great. A few days into training, they had this thing called water confidence. This special thing was not in the warning order. I didn't know what this was. Basically, what water confidence is they drowned your ass. So they put 16-pound weight belts on you. Now I'm negative buoyant already. I sink to the bottom with just myself. They put 280s on your back, and the whole idea is you're supposed to go down to the deep end with all this crap on. You have your fins on your feet, and there's a side of the pool. You're at the bottom, so it's 10 foot. You're supposed to bound up. You can't swim up. Jump up, get up, and they say switch. You take your fins off your feet, put them on your hands, and this is all you can do to get up. So I would literally get like this high, and here's the water, and here are my lips. And this is all I was getting for air. So over this period of time, there's like 12 more events, and all these events are water confidence. This is what kicks you out of special operations training. It's not swimming, it's not cold water, it's not yelling. They try to drown you. So basically, this went on for 6 more weeks. I didn't quit. It went from 200 guys to about 25 guys. I'm still in the class. So here I am going through training. I don't go to sleep for 6 weeks because I'm scared to death of the water. This program is 10 weeks long. After 6 weeks, they thought, well, the guys in the program are going to go on through further training because these guys are going to make it. They're good to go. Roger that. So I went to the doctor. We all went to the doctor for a nice, huge, long, extensive medical test. They drew blood on me. 3 days later, they got the results back. The doc calls me in the office and says, hey, David, you have sickle cell. Okay, sickle cell, for you all don't understand or know what it is, it's a blood disease that when you get under stressful situations or whatever, dehydration, your blood will sickle. When it sickles, stroke, heart attack, sudden death, all those great things that can happen to you. So in that period of time, I joined the Air Force, 175 pounds, came out at 297. We'll get to that in a second. So they drew my blood, and they kept me out of training for a week. They didn't know if this sickle cell was going to kill me. They have a lot of information about it. So I'm sitting there. So when you go from very uncomfortable to comfortable, like I was now, I wasn't in training, I wasn't drowning, you never want to go back to being uncomfortable again. So I'm sitting there relaxing, chilling out. I'm thinking, well, man, they're going to kick me out of here. I'm not going to quit, though. So this is good. I don't want to get back in the water ever again so I can leave training. So this is my thought process. The doc calls me in a week later. I'm skipping down to the doc's office thinking I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm not going to quit, but they're kicking me out, so that's good for me. I walk in the doctor's office. He says, hey, man, we're putting you back into training. It's not good. It's not good. But I'm like, okay, let me see. I've been in 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 3 weeks left. I can tough it out. I'm walking back to my compound, talking to the head of the school, walking to the CEO of the school. I say, hey, sir, they let me back into training. He goes, that's great. He goes, well, you missed a week of training. There's a very important block of training you missed. You have to start from day one. But when you're insecure like I was and you're afraid of everything like I used to be, you lie really fast because you don't want the person knowing that you're a punk. So I sat there and I said, you know what? The doc didn't know a whole bunch about sickle cell, so I'm not comfortable going back into training. The CEO bit off on it, and I never quit, but he gave me a medical out of Pararescue. But you all know I quit, didn't want to go back in the water. But I ain't telling anybody that for several years. So in that time frame, 4 years, and I became 297 pounds. Very minimal education, as you all know, and I get a job spraying for cockroaches at Ecolab. Okay? Yeah, it's a good job. So I don't like cockroaches, though. So I'm making about $1,000 a month spraying for cockroaches, and I'm working from 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. Did this for about 6 months. And my nightly, so at 7 o'clock in the morning, I would go to Steak and Shake, my last stop, spray them down, get a large chocolate milkshake, go across the street to 7-Eleven, get a box of mini donuts, chocolate donuts, because I had a 45-minute commute home. I was depressed and food felt good. So I'm driving home, sipping my shake, eating my donuts, chilling out, listening to the radio. I get home this day, my routine was to get home, walk in the door, turn the TV on, walk in the back, start taking a shower. This particular day, the TV came on, and they said, world's toughest training, Navy, whatever. Get my towel, which could barely fit me. My ass was so big, I had to pinch it like this. So I come back down, I sit down, and all this shit just falls out. So I'm watching TV, and I'm like, my God, man, those guys are fucking nuts. Carrying boats and laws, guys going through SEAL training. And wet and sandy, getting cold, jackhammers, snot bubbles, chafed up, guys ringing the bell, just quitting left and right. At the end of the show, this commanding officer comes up at graduation. There's 22 guys that made it through. And the commanding officer says, we live in a world where mediocrity is often rewarded. These men detest mediocrity. And I sat there and I had time to reflect back on my life. Being bullied, coming from nothing, learning disability, messed up foundation. Life isn't fair at all. At all. So what are you going to do about it? I knew that no one was coming back to help me. No one was going to miracle me to be somebody special. Everybody that called me nigger, my dad, my mom, all my situations were on me now. And solely on me. So I had to start developing an indestructible mental toolbox. So I sat there on that couch and I realized, man, I am a piece of shit. And even though the world helped me get here, my false reality helped me even more. And listening to somebody else's dialogue further helped me get here. So I sat there and I had this bright idea, being 297 pounds, to go be a Navy SEAL. So the bright idea happens, 297, I watched this show, I finished my chocolate milkshake, and I said I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. So now the next 2 weeks, I'm calling these recruiters up. And then so these guys are used to getting studs that want to be a Navy SEAL, not a 297-pound fat guy. So I'm calling the guys up, hey man, I want to be a Navy SEAL. Okay, blah, 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 blah. We get to the last question. How much do you weigh? 297? Dial tone. Call somebody else. This went on for 2 weeks. So I called a guy named Steven Saljo. Last guy, I was giving up. Steven Saljo was so busy, Navy recruiter, said, come on in. I don't have time to talk to you. So I'm driving in after work, chocolate milkshake in hand. I put my shake down. He looks at me and says, please don't tell me that you are David Goggins. I said, yeah, man, I got right here in my shirt, Goggins. He said, yeah, I'm being a smart ass. And he goes, man, you're fat and you're black. I said, man, you're an observant motherfucker. Sorry, I cussed a little bit because my life was hard. So I don't want to water it down. I'm real. I'm real. I got about 5 more cuss words before I get cut off, though. So I sit there, he's laughing at me. I'm looking at him with this straight up stoic face, like, look, man, I'm being serious. So he humors me, takes me back to the scale. I step on the scale. So in front of the scale, I had a nice big chart. It was a height weight chart. So to get the Navy, I could be 6'1" and 191 pounds. That was it. I'm 297. He writes it down. He goes, man, you're a big boy. And he starts writing stuff down. He gets these huge manuals out and brings them out. You were in the Air Force before? Yeah, how many years? 4.5. He's doing all these figures, calculating stuff up. How old are you? I'm 24 and a half years old. Okay, blah, 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 doing this. Next thing I know, he goes, hey, the only program we can get you in to be a Navy SEAL is about to end in 3 months. You have to drop 106 pounds in 3 months. Roger that. I got my chocolate milkshake and walked out. So here I go back to work, and I'm spraying for cockroaches at Ecolab, and I'm chilling out, and I'm like, you know what, man, maybe I can just be the best Ecolab guy in the world. And I'm spraying for cockroaches, and I never really looked for cockroach areas, so I was spraying. So there's these holes in the wall where you're supposed to find a hole in the kitchen, and it's supposed to find a column, and that goes along, and it kind of flushes out the cockroaches. If you find the right column, it's pay dirt. It's called the money spot. So I have my wand, and this place I'm talking about, I can't talk about it because it's, I signed a confidentiality agreement, okay? But it's called Old Country Buffet. So I'm spraying for cockroaches, and if that's filmed, I'm killing you. So I'm spraying for cockroaches, and my brownie falls because they have some good-ass brownies. So I pick up my brownie, and as I pick it up, I felt stuff. And I keep my head focused on the brownie. And I'm thinking, there's no way in hell I found that. And as I'm bending over, I had a big ass. And my mom would put socks. She would sew socks in my ass, and that ripped out. And so I'm sitting, it was a bad time in my life. And I stayed in this position for a while, and I put my hands down here, and stuff's just falling on my neck. And I look up at the tile, and it's open, and stuff just is crawling around and falling around. I hit the money spot, people, all right? So I get my canister real slow, and I'm trying to shake my shirt out. I get my canister, I take my mask off, and I leave it there, and I get in my car, I start it up, I sit there for a second, and I drive home, and I quit my job. So, yeah, done. But now, what am I going to do? Your best work has to come when you're least motivated. Where does that come from? It comes from basically, I had to stop thinking normal. I had to stop thinking normal. I can no longer be a common man walking around doing common things. But no one taught me this stuff. It wasn't like I paid a trainer to come train me. Jenny Craig didn't come down and miracle my ass. None of this happened. It was on me. And that's what you have to realize. Everything you do, you may have some support, you may not, but it's on you. You have to make the decision whether you want to be a badass or whether you just want to be mediocre and everything's okay. But being a badass hurts real bad. And that's why I didn't want to do it. So over the next 2.5 months, I won't bore you with details, I lost the weight. I went back to the recruiter, and I went to Buds, Navy SEAL training. And I was the only person in the history of Navy SEAL training to go through 3 Hell Weeks in 1 year. Hell Week is 130 hours of continuous training, and starts on Sunday, ends on Friday. You might get 2 hours of sleep, and I did all that in 1 year. Why did I do that in 1 year? Cut to the chase again. There was an old crusty commanding officer named Captain Bowen. Captain Bowen was an old Vietnam vet. This was his last tour of duty, and he believed. So over 70 years, this training's been going on. He believed no matter where you were at, you will start from day one if you don't make it through. So I get to Wednesday, ruptured hernia. Back to day one, week one. Get my second Hell Week. I get through that Hell Week, get ready to start second phase, break my kneecap. Roll back day one, week one. In my third Hell Week, I'm standing there. I have 16 stress fractures. So I have 16 stress fractures. This is me in my first Hell Week, I believe. So I have 16 stress fractures. I'm on my crutches. I'm looking at him, and he says, Goggins, this is your last time you're going through training. You have 4 classes to get better. So I got hurt in May, had to come back in January from a broken kneecap, all kind of crap. Stress fractures, totally jacked up. So how I did it, I actually came back. Stress fractures don't heal really well. So I got through my third Hell Week of my third class. And in that Hell Week, we had a guy die of pulmonary edema. It was one of the coldest Hell Weeks on the planet. So what Hell Week is they freeze your butt off, and usually you get done freezing, and they try to warm you up. In this particular Hell Week, it just continued and continued to rain. So we never got warm. He ended up dying Wednesday night of pulmonary edema. So when I got through with Hell Week, my stress fractures were so bad, and I realized I can't go through I need to get rolled again. I'm broken. And he's like, no more rolls. And I remember that. So at this Hell Week, I said to myself, man, I can't even walk. I was on crutches again. But after Hell Week, you get Walk Week. And after Walk Week, you have 20 more weeks of getting your butt kicked. So I had a plan. My plan was to show up at 3:30 in the morning, put my black sock on, go on my dive cage, and get duct tape. And I would literally cast my feet up to the mid of my calf. And for the first 40 minutes of the run, I have a pressure, so I still have them now, pressure ulcers that are now healed up, but you can see the scars from deflection of the joint. So basically so what I did was I pretty much cast my ankle up my shin so I wasn't doing this and activating those stress fractures. So I ran on my hip flexors. For the first 45 minutes, the pain was so excruciating, but then after that, it would subside. And I would be able to finish the day out. The pain would come back. So I get done with SEAL training. I gained the weight back. I'm about 250 pounds. And have you guys heard of the story Lone Survivor? Marcus Luttrell is a great friend of mine. We speak on the Patriot Tour together. I went through Bud's training with Danny Deese, Michael Murphy, Axe, and also Marcus Luttrell. Marcus was the only guy that lived on this operation. It it went bad. QRF team came in, Quick Reaction Force team came in of Navy SEALs. They got blown up. Everybody died but Marcus Luttrell. I was at free fall school with his twin brother, Morgan Luttrell, who's also a Navy SEAL. Heard about it, went home, Googled ways to raise money, Googled races, all this other stuff. What came up at 250, hadn't put running shoes on in over a year, was a race called the Badwater 135, where you run 135 miles in one day, pretty much 48 hours, and it's in Death Valley in summertime. I didn't know anything about this crazy world. I thought it was a stage race. I thought you ran like 10, 15 miles, camped out, barbecued, and then ran again. So I called the race director up, Chris Kosman. I said, hey, man, I want to do this race to raise money. He said, have you ran 100 miles before? I said, what, in a calendar year? He said, no, in one day. I called him up on a Wednesday, and he says, you only have 2 more races to qualify for my Badwater race, and basically, you have to run 100 miles in 24 hours. The race right there in San Diego that Saturday was called the San Diego One Day, where you run around a 1-mile track for 24 hours. Haven't run it in basically a year. I said, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm a Navy SEAL. Bad idea. Go to Walmart, get a blue lawn chair, Ritz Crackers Mileplex, and that's my nutrition, people, for 100 miles. Pretty stupid, right? I have my ex-wife out there with me. She's crewing me. I get to mile 70. When you get to mile 70 and you haven't run past 20 miles in your life and you sit down for the first time, what do you think happens? Pretty jacked up, right? Yeah. Well, I'm looking at 3 of my ex-wife, and I'm sitting there. She's looking at me. I'm looking at her. And I said, I'm kind of making it very abbreviated. In the book, it's a lot more than this, but I'm going to abbreviate it real quick. I asked her if she loved me. She said yes. Why? I said, I'm going to take a shit on myself right now. Because I couldn't stand up because my blood pressure was all messed up. Start peeing blood down my leg. She's a nurse, so she's freaking out. And there's one thing a black man never wants to hear, ever. She said, you're starting to turn white. So this is where the 40% rule comes in, people. Worst shape my entire life. I've been through Ranger School, Delta Force selection twice, 3 hell weeks, all this crap. This is the worst pain I've ever been in. To this day, I'm 43 years old right now. I did 21 years in the military. I've done 60 ultra races, pull-up records, all kind of stuff. This is the worst pain of my entire life to this day. But this is when I had to realize one thing. I had to break this humongous thing down to very small. All I put in my mind was, let's not quit yet. I'm going to quit, but not yet. So I sat there. I can't stand up. So let's get some nutrition. All right, I'm not dizzy anymore. Let me clean this crap off me, okay? I need some food. I'm going to quit after I eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right, but not yet. Let me see if I can stand up. Stand up. Maybe I'll quit. Let me see if I can walk to the car. There's the car. It's a 1-mile track. I'll walk past the car. I'm just going to get back to the chair. I'm not going to quit yet. I kept this mindset the whole time. I ended up doing 30 more miles. Did 31 miles, truthfully, after that. I did 101 miles in 19 hours. If you're driving the car may say 130 miles an hour. The factory puts a governor on it, so you only go 91. So you're sitting there when to race somebody. They have no governor. They're fine. Boom. You can't, because every time you get to 91, the car starts doing this. We put a governor on our brain, and the second we get to that governor, our bodies start doing this. Oh, this sucks. This is uncomfortable. No. Let's go this way. Let's stop. It starts giving you all these questions that we cannot answer. If you can't answer the questions your brain is asking you, you quit. If you have the answers to those questions of why the hell am I out here, and you give it a quick answer, the brain starts shutting up because it knows why we're doing what we're doing. I started figuring these things out in my life. So we have this governor on our brain. And how you start pushing past that governor, start realizing your brain has the tactical advantage over you. Why? Because it knows your insecurities. It knows when you're lying. It knows your fears. It knows everything about you. And whenever those things start, like right now, I'm scared to death up here. Why? When I was in 6th grade, I was in a play. And I stood up in front of a whole bunch of white people that probably didn't, I was being judged in my mind. Scared the shit out of me. And I stuttered severely bad. I knew I stuttered bad. My line was this long. It's like, hello or some shit. And I stood up for everybody, and I was like this. And I walked off stage. So when I walk up in front of 1,200 people, it's still there. My mind's telling me, go, run off the stage. I have to tell my mind something different. I have to remember my resume, what I've been through, that all of you in here are just as fucked up as me. We post our real life never on Instagram. We post the life that we want to have out there. That's not me anymore. I'm going to tell you exactly about me, who I am. That's how you get better. That's how you fix yourself. That's how you grow. I'm going to move on real quick to the very end of my story. I could be up here for a long time, but I need some questions. I did everything I talked about up here. I ran 205 miles. I ran 7,000 miles in 2007 to raise $2 million for Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Thank you. I did it all with a hole in my heart, the size of a dime. So basically, I was sick as hell, and I didn't get into all of this. Once again, all these stories in my book with all these takeaways that I have that, I'm not a theorist, people. There's a bunch of people who are theorists who go to the library, study the mind. They study it in a book. I studied it by being a practitioner. I put my mind in hell, and I realized how it was thinking. And I figured out tools and tactics on how to get through it by being in it, not by studying it, by being in it. And literally, that's how I started callousing over. So I did what? I did 67,000 pull-ups in 9 months, and it calloused my hands. It calloused my hands real good to protect my hands against the bar. I started learning how to callous my mind, to callous over my victim's mentality. And that's what I did. So, back to the hole in my heart. Everything I talked about, 3 hell weeks, Ranger School, running, swimming, I did triple Ironmans, I did all kind of crap. And when I got to about 33, 34 years old, I started being extremely sick. When you have an ASD, and so ASD is atrial septal defect, a lot of us are born with a hole in our heart. When we get to a certain age, it closes. Mine was very large. So basically, the good blood would get with the bad blood. So the oxygenated blood would be deoxygenated, and so the bad blood was going through my body, long story short. And that's how I was doing everything. And so they sent me to Johns Hopkins. Everybody studied my body. They studied everything. And one guy says, you know what? We can't find anything on how you did all this. How are you able to do all this? A head guy came in from MIT. And he said, you know how he did it? Understand something, people. We are leaving a lot on the table. My book is called Can't Hurt Me. Why is it called Can't Hurt Me? Life isn't fair. We have to understand that. It shouldn't be fair. It's a trial ground. It's a testing ground. It's built to make us harder. It's built to make us as strong as we can, to test us, to drive us. So, mentality is the only thing that gets us through life. I was an underdog. We are all underdogs in life. Even the baddest person in the world should think that way. So you should always have I've never arrived mentality. And the can't hurt me mentality is no matter where you come from, the sewer or wherever you think you're from. When I got out of the sewer, I got to the road and looked around and said, can't hurt me. Nothing should be able to hurt you. If you believe that, it starts to become true. I pass it off to you.
I mean, I'm kind of speechless again. It's stuff like, what are you asking? One of the things that I'm curious about is along the way, what inspired you to keep pushing yourself? Like, you talked a little bit about the shifting point.
Right.
But what was it? What was the trigger? What was the defining moment that made you say, or what was the point that kept you saying that you wanted to go forward?
It was honestly, I started shaving my head at a young age, and I lied so much because I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to be accepted so badly. So whatever you liked, I liked. I mean, I liked it, but just so you like me, that's what I thought about. So for a period of time, looking in that mirror every day, you can't lie to yourself, man. That dirty bathroom mirror that with all that daggone toothpaste scum and whatever on it, it's telling you the truth. It's saying, hey, man, you are a jacked up cat. And a lot of us have this voice in our head. We all know that voice in our head that tells us the truth every single day that we try to run away from, that says we're scared of this, let's go this way. It started gnawing at me so horribly bad that it wouldn't allow me to live anymore without facing me. I had to go back in the dungeon. So when I tell my story, I tell it on a very surface level. I had to go down in the dungeon, the sewer where my mind used to be at, and talk to that guy. Because I wanted to live my life in a way that when I died, I was proud of myself. I know what pride felt like. And if it took pushing myself to death, I was willing to do that. But I wanted to look in that mirror, not impress anybody, not money, not fame, not nothing. I wanted to impress the guy in the daggone mirror. And I worked endlessly and tirelessly to do that. And it happened.
So what would you say, because a lot of times we talk about inspiration. I say a lot of times motivation's temporary, inspiration lasts forever.
Right.
And then there's a lot of words thrown around. You've been on the speaker circuit. A lot of people get up and they talk a lot of cliche words or sayings or one-liners.
It's a bunch of shit. No one's putting the work in. They're saying it, going back to the bungalows, chilling out with room service and shit. Yeah, it's a bunch of noise.
So what would you say is your inspiration today? And then the curiosity that I have is, what is your inspiration and how would you define leadership? I mean, you've come up through the military and you had to find an opportunity to lead yourself at some point. And I just think it's interesting because if you ask everybody in this audience what their definition of leadership is, everyone's going to give you a little bit different answer, different perspective. So I don't know. I'm just curious. That's something I'm just curious about.
Well, we'll do leadership first. Leadership is being very uncomfortable all the time. It is holding yourself to such a standard that is almost untouchable. You may not have any friends. You may have a jacked up life, maybe have a jacked up marriage. It's being unbalanced. You've literally dedicated your life to a higher cause, a higher purpose beyond you. And it takes that person in your life to understand your mission. And it's totally mission oriented. It's that guy that's like, okay, let's say we're going to work out at 5 o'clock and I'm in charge. I'm the leader. My guys and my girls, whoever it may be, need to see me running to work at 3:30. I need to take every excuse that they may have away from them. They need to see me outworking them every day, not trying to put them down, but saying, God, man, if he's doing this, man, so when I tell you to do something, you can't say no. You realize, fuck, he's getting after it every day. I cannot say no to him. He's leading by example. So that's what it's all about. It's about, and people say lead by example. It's so easy to say that, man. It's so easy to say that, but to do that every day, to wake up every day miserable and say, God, I don't want to do this anymore, that's when you know you're a leader. When you're at that point and you're saying to yourself, every night is Groundhog's Day. Every single day, you know, I'm going back in the lab again, man. I'm going back in the lab every single day. You know it's not going to end. That's when you know you're being a leader, when your life truly is it sucks. It's just truth, man.
Perspective.
Being a leader is horrible. It is. I did it for a lot of years, man. You have to set that bar even higher, because you have to have something for people to look for, people to reach.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and there's weight, right? There's responsibility. We have another event we called Leadership Coaching Dynamics, which we look at defining leadership, and a lot of times there's a difference in somebody that's achieving versus leading.
Right.
And one of the things that we define on it is accepting the responsibility and realizing that once you accept that responsibility, it has weight. Everyone wants the recognition of a leader, to be called a leader, but not everybody wants to accept the responsibility of what that means, so to speak. And so that's kind of how we I guess, would phrase it at Leadership Coaching Dynamics.
People love scoring the touchdowns, man, but no one wants to be a lineman.
Right.
They get praised for scoring the touchdowns. That lineman is doing all the work.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So what inspires you? What inspires you right now today to keep moving forward, to keep going? Like what, because obviously you started setting crazy goals even after you accomplished something that was crazy.
Still doing it.
Right. So what is it that inspires you?
Is you have to believe that you are here on this earth. So what changed my whole mindset, really, I was thinking, like, why the hell did God put me here? What am I doing here? If you have that mentality, you could be nothing. You have to believe that you are here for a reason. That there's some reason. Me getting beat up, me getting tortured, me being bullied, me being born with no foundation, me having to figure all this shit out on my own, figuring out this indestructible mental toolbox, had to be for a reason. And my reason, I believe now, I know for a fact, was to unlock the code to human potential. And for me to share that with people.
So when you reflect back, you talk about unlocking the code of human potential. Do you see that there is more?
But this is the thing, though. It's easier said than done.
Right.
On the other end of suffering is a life that many people don't know even exists. It's a beautiful world because like the 40% rule. We all live in this world where our brains are keeping us in this box. Outside that box, on the other edge of suffering, which is on the other edge of that 40%, is a world that's endless of opportunity. But we are afraid to go outside that box because in that box it's comfortable. That's where all of our nice stuff, that's where the nice 4-lane highway's at. I know where the restrooms are at. I know where the gas stations are at. Outside that box, man, God gives you a shovel and says, man, start digging. That's not fun. But when you dig your own path to all kind of stuff that's unknown. And that's why I started realizing, man, like on the other end of this is some beautiful stuff. So I got outside my box and realized, man, 300 pounds, now look at me, I'm 185 pounds, and on the other side of the box was all this stuff. And I didn't know it was over there until I climbed the wall and saw it.
So what wall are you climbing now?
Man, right now, I've climbed a lot of walls. There's no more walls anymore. The reason why is because I know how to climb. I was trying to figure out how to climb before. I got all the right gear, man. I got the ropes, I got the shoes, I got the chalk, I got the harnesses. I'm good. I'm not scared to climb anymore. I go to the rock, hammer it in, I got my belay, and I'm good to go. So you got to figure out how to climb first, and that's all. We all have a different way of climbing. That's why there's a lot of books out there on mental toughness. It's all crap. Why? Because it's a cookie cutter way. Life isn't cookie cutter. Like 3.14 is pi. It's how you figure out equations. We're all different equations. We all have a story. We all have to strengthen our mind to figure out our own equation. Once you figure out your own equation in life, you can then start picking away at how to be better. But you first have to figure out your equation in life. Once you figure that out, man, you can do anything.
I believe inherently everyone knows that they have more inside them. Everybody wants more.
Right.
And we want to do more, we want to achieve more, but in order to do that, we have to become more, right?
Right.
And then we have something to contribute. You can't give what you don't have. And I think that identifying is half the battle. What is holding you back? What are those, what did you call it, false sense of realities that you're putting down? But what would you suggest or recommend for anyone in here that they're on that tipping point of breaking through? They're on that tipping point because right now we have this incredible environment where the energy's high, people's mindset's right. In the military, you all are trained in environments. That's why they tried to, drown you. And I remember last time you told a story of being put in like the Black Ocean, overnight. But what would you suggest to them? Their path to their more, their path to their better. That's kind of like our entire mantra as a company. Why we do what we do is to pursue better so we can inspire other people to do the same. But if we're not pursuing it, then we're not doing it. What would you recommend for them when they go back into those environments of what to expect? And, what's maybe a tool that you would recommend for them to try on to see if it fits?
Well, the biggest thing, I like what you're saying because my big saying is motivation is crap. Right now, a lot of you right now can be motivated as hell, go out of here and be like, yeah, I'm motivated. Like you said, you're right. Without being driven or obsessed, this motivation fades. And motivation is at the all-time high when your bills are paid, when your wife or husband is good, when everything is good, you're motivated. It's that person when all hell breaks loose and everything falls apart that says, I still got to get it in. And how you get to that point in life, what I figured out, it's so noisy right now. This world is so noisy. We all walk around with these phones, computers. The world is so fast. We're not able to think. The most powerful weapon in the world, we walk around with it. It's our mind. It's our brain. You have to be able to go into a very dark place in your mind and figure who you are. Go back to what you want to do. What's your purpose? We can't figure our purpose out or why we're here or why we're even born or whatever because it's so loud in our mind. We don't have any quiet time with ourselves to sit back and say, what do I really want? There's so many different dialogues in our head that we can't think. So my biggest thing is you have to be alone in a very dark place in your mind to think about what is important to you.
Awesome. And so, kind of piggyback off that, you've spent a lot of time alone. What is something that you learned about yourself through your process or your journey?
I learned I was leaving a lot on the table, and that's what scares me the most. I'm good now, but what haunts me is that at 24 years old, I was 300 pounds, and if I didn't make a right turn, if I decided to just give in to the feelings I had, I would have died a 300 or 400 pound man working some minimum wage job in my casket, never knowing that I was this guy. And what fear, so I believe in God. And what scares me the most is I believe that God, in my own mind, I'm a big visualization person. So what keeps me going is like visualizing. It's not true, but it helps me. I believe that God had this big chart in heaven. And when you get there, if you earn your right to get there, you get there in heaven, and you get there, let's say I walked up at 300 pounds. And God says, hey man, great job, you made it to heaven. And he rips this page down from Brian Underwood. And now it says David Goggins' chart. He rips it down, throws that paper to the side. And he says, look at this. And I'm reading it. I go, what is this? He goes, how much do you weigh? 300 pounds. What did you do? I was a pest control guy for 40 years. He says, this is what you were supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? A 185-pound person. Be able to run 205 miles. Break the pull-up record. Motivate people. Energize people. Make them driven. Make them passionate. Make them find more. So am I in heaven or in hell? That's what motivates me. It scares me also. Because I believe that we are all leaving a lot on the table. And now when I go to heaven, what I want God to look at me and say is, as you were living, I'm the all-knowing man. I had to get a damn marker out and write more as you were living. You see what I'm saying? I want to impress him. That's what I'm here for. I want to do the impossible. Do the impossible.
You know, I heard a speaker when I was 20 years old and say something very similar. And I heard him speak and like it hit me like that hit me, right? And it hit everybody in here. But that thought goes through everyone's mind at some point in time in their life. If it doesn't, I don't believe that they're alive, right? But he talked about, you know, you're going to go meet your maker one day and he's going to look at you and he's going to say, I gave you all this potential. What did you do with it? Like it's almost like an interview.
Everybody's story does either harm or good to them. You have to go back in there in that muck, face that muck, fix that. Because what happens is when I was in Navy SEAL training, one of my jobs was to train guys to get through Navy SEAL training. And what I started realizing is I was training these guys, they were getting bigger, stronger, faster, all this other stuff. But they would still quit. All I was doing was building bigger, stronger, faster quitters. And I started down, I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong, man? I was changing all the external crap. I wasn't going into the internal and changing what really matters. So that's what the first step is, and I talk about it a lot in my book about how, like the steps about doing that, man. But the first step you have to do is face yourself and be accountable for what you're not. So then you can be what you want to be. But first face what you're not. So I like Gary Vee. But I'm not tripling down on strengths. I'm tripling down on weaknesses. That's what I do.
That's, you like basketball.
Oh, yeah.
We talked basketball when we first met, right? Yeah, because you wanted to go watch Trey.
Yep, Trey Young.
Yeah.
Yep.
You like Michael Jordan, right?
Yep, I met him when I was 12 years old.
Yeah. His energy, like just being his, like you could feel his, I don't know,
yeah.
at least I did when I met him. But the thing that it's always unique about Michael Jordan, we talk about this a lot at the events, is that he could have become very complacent and very casual whenever, he became the scoring leader and the all-star. And but for Michael, his brain was not, be the greatest in the game at that time. It's, can I be the greatest that's ever played the game? So what he did is he went in the gym. They said he couldn't play defense. He started focusing. When you say double down on your weakness, I think this is what you mean. He started focusing in on defense.
Right.
And then 2 years later, he's a defensive player of the year. Then they said, well, you can't shoot. Then the next year he shoots like 40% from three-point line. Is that what you mean by?
Exactly. It's about, so I hated the water. And that was about being in that box. If I didn't get over my fear of being, being in the water, I'd never be a SEAL. I'm going to be up here right now. Right. I have no story to share. By me saying, okay, man, I'm afraid of the water, and that's kind of shackling my mind, it's by facing those things, that's how you open up different doors of your life. Because all these things that we're afraid of, they're doors that can possibly lead you to a whole other world. But we keep them shut for fear, for insecurities. And that's the thing about tripling down on your weaknesses, so then those weaknesses end up becoming your strengths.
Right. Y'all get that, right? Very cool. Quick question. We talked about it backstage, authenticity, and I think that like authenticity, because judgment runs so rampant in the world, right? And it's usually about the person that's judging rather than the person that they are judging. But we talk about authenticity, it's almost like a buzzword now or a cliche word in terms of, oh yeah, let's be authentic. But what does being authentic mean to you? Like what is your views on authenticity, and what is the power of being authentic?
It's the ultimate power to stand in front of a group of people, and you all can ask me any question you want to, and I'll answer it. That right there is what I talk about authenticity. It's being able to know that your life is jacked up, that we all come from a past that may be bad or good, and to own it, and not to be ashamed of it. To not be afraid for people to judge you. Not care what other people think. To be able to walk around in your own skin and be so comfortable in it that you can write your whole life, all the bad, not the good, all the bad on the billboard, and walk around like this. This is me, man. This is me. That's authenticity to me. And when you get to that point, when you can walk around with those middle fingers up, not really like being mean to people, but saying, judge me, man. This is it. This is who I am, but I'm fixing it. I'm not just letting it, it's not defining who I am, but that's a part of my life. And it's just owning who you are and not being ashamed of it.
Strong. And, I'm just curious, like right now you have a lot of perspective that can bring value to everyone's life, right? Because everyone's gone through something, and you've got through the other side. We're not fragile people. And, I always find it interesting to find what someone's grateful for as they look back. So like gratitude, as you're moving forward in your life, what are the things that you hold the dearest from a gratitude standpoint or a reflection standpoint?
Honestly, man, it's the story I just told you all right now. That is my dearest thing in my life. Like, top 5 publishing house came to me and wanted to buy my life story, Can't Hurt Me, for $300,000. And for a guy that makes, in the military, I made $70,000 my whole life. They came to me 8 months ago when I was writing my book, and they said, we're going to offer you, as a first-time offer, $300,000, a lot of damn money. And I was getting ready to sign the contract. And I sat there with my fiance, and I was like, I can't do it. She said, this is a lot of damn money. And I'm like, I wouldn't sell my life for anything in the world. What I did, what I overcame, all the struggles, all the trials and tribulations. So I self-published. Turned the contract down and self-published.
That's pretty cool. You know, one thing that you said at the last event that resonated with me is had to do with a book. You know, we talk about being a legend or leaving a legacy. You know, when it's all said and done, you were mentioning the perspective of, look, you're writing your story right now.
Right.
And you're the author of your story, but you had a little bit of definition of one of the things that you want to do is make sure that when you finish your story, if you gave it to someone.
That's right. Will it change their life forever? That's right. So my whole thing was I'm kind of far out in my thinking. I'm a real deep thinker because I use my mind to get over so many obstacles. And as I was writing my book, I started writing it a long time ago. And my whole thing is, let's say you're in the hospital bed and you're getting ready to die and somebody walks in the room. And you don't know them, they don't know you, and you have one copy of your book. And it's sitting right there on the table. And you're taking your last breath and you're talking to this person and you say to them, I want you to read this book. As you're dying, think about this. That book that you just wrote, that woman, man, whatever, reading that book, would it change their life forever? And if it's not changing their life forever, you have to rewrite your book. You got to start rewriting it right now.
You've obviously, I mean, coming through the military, you either had friends, mentors, acquaintances, coaches, figures in your life that have helped you forge this toolbox or this mindset, or people that you respect, leadership that you've respected. What were qualities in them that, you know, that inspired you or, you know, that helped you grow? Mm-hmm. And those mentors or those coaches, what would you say the significant factor was? And the reason I'm asking this is because, like, in leadership coaching dynamics at an event we do, a lot of people believe that being likable is the key to, you know, leading people or being a cheerleader. But I'm just curious on how you would answer that question.
I don't respect a whole bunch of people, but the few that I did respect are the people who were uncommon amongst uncommon people. And what that means is those people who weren't afraid to stand alone. Those people who have morals, values, who did not go with. If all you guys are going left, it's that one person who say, you know what, left's not the right way. I'm going to go right. Who didn't follow the crowd. That person who's not afraid of doing what they believe is right in their heart and not following someone else because someone else said, let's go this way, and they agree with everybody. I don't like yes men or yes women. If you're right, you're right. We're going to follow you. But I like people who stand for something, they believe in something, and this is the way I'm going to go whether you like me or not. And that's what it's about.
So in your life, is there a coach or a mentor that you interface with that you had a lot of respect for?
You know, I had several people, but don't take this wrong. I believe that we are our own hero. And if you have a culture, let's say right now you guys idolize me, and then tomorrow I go outside and I have some kind of issue. I can let you down. I'm human. All your mentors, everybody you like, we're human. You got to put yourself on that pedestal, hold yourself to a higher standard, hold yourself accountable, and then look up to yourself. I'm not saying kiss your own ass, but I'm saying hold yourself to a standard and look within inside yourself and try to be the best you can be. We start trying to mimic somebody else. Don't be them, be you. And that's kind of my mindset.
Very cool.